Hello there, my wonderful aviators. RandomHead787 here. So, after numerous delays, Sim Update 3 is finally out. And today, I'm going to go over what I think of the update. I've been in the beta build since it first started, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's start off with the thing that was plaguing the sim for me and a lot of people, and that was performance. Now, throughout the majority of the beta, performance for me was a bit of a mixed bag, but ever since beta build 1.5.25, I've noticed some pretty dramatic improvements here. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer here. I do use frame generation, so when you see the performance metrics on my screen, just note though that's not my true FPS. But I gotta be honest, I do kind of have to use frame generation, otherwise I get very low frame rates, and to be fair, I don't have a super powerful PC, but with frame generation, the sim is more than playable for me. I'm first going to touch on really the only plane I'm having an issue with right now in the sim, and that's the AnyBuild's A320. For some reason, this plane just loves to stutter, either when I'm climbing or in cruise or descent. When I'm taking off or landing, it's usually okay. I don't know what's going on with this airplane right now, but if I do see improvements to it, I will let you know in the comments below. But because of these issues, I switched to the Phoenix A320, and boy, am I glad I did that. But still, not everyone wants to buy the Phoenix, so I really hope this issue gets fixed very soon. One of the biggest issues, in fact, no, this was the biggest issue for me during the beta of Sim Update 3, and that was crash to desktops. But ever since beta build 1.5.25, the crash to desktops have become far less frequent for me. For example, I no longer get any crash to desktops when I'm selecting dense airports or when I bring up the camera menu at dense airports. Like, for example, Charles de Gaulle, almost every time I brought up the camera menu, crash to desktop, I literally cannot replicate it anymore. It just does not happen. This is so great to see. Now, while this next crash to desktop wasn't a part of that recent beta build, it's just something that I've noticed has also gone away, and that's I no longer get crash to desktops when I go into the aircraft selection menu, which was super frustrating, but luckily it's no longer there, works perfectly fine. I also was experiencing crash to desktops when flying mainly jets. So, like, for example, the PNDG 777-300ER, the Azobo Cessna Citation, the AnyBuild's A320, the Phoenix A320, and the Flight Effects Citation X. And they were not happening all the time, but they were frequent enough to make me want to punch a hole in my monitor. But ever since that recent beta build, I've done maybe a dozen or so flights with these planes. Now, I didn't do a dozen flights with each of those planes, but combined all together, maybe like a dozen flights or so. I only had one freeze. Literally, that's it. No actual crash to desktop. I guess you could kind of count a freeze as that. But compared to how often it would happen before, I notice a difference here. Now, if I experience any more freezes or crash to desktops, I will let you know in the comments below. But for the most part, it's running pretty darn good. Now, quickly on the topic of the VRAM leak. As we know, this has been an issue plaguing Flight Simulator 2024. The only time I think I'm maybe noticing it is when I fly the Phoenix A320. I feel like I need to restart the sim after I've flown the plane because it seems to be taking up a little more VRAM than it should. But other than that, I can play the sim for quite a while and it runs perfectly fine. I think it might just depend what type of plane you're flying, in my opinion. And speaking of depending on what plane you're flying, let's talk about performance at large dense airports. Now, I'll just go off ahead and say, for the most part, it's good. But that's gonna vary depending on the plane you're flying. For example, the Phoenix A320, this is with frame generation here, it can get pretty low at times. But when I fly the PMDG 777, it runs really great. So it's gonna vary depending what type of plane you fly. It depends how complex the systems are or if the thing is even optimized right. Your results are gonna vary, and also it does depend on the PC that you're using as well. But I would say for the most part, The large, dense airports have gotten way more optimized, and they work way better now. Okay, now let's move on to career mode, and I gotta be honest, guys, this is probably the part of Sim Update 3 that I am the most impressed with. Now, let me just quickly emphasize something. Career mode still has a bit to go. It's not perfect, there's still some problems, but I can tell you, I don't feel quite as frustrated when I play career mode anymore. I'm actually really starting to have fun with this. No longer am I getting told by ATC to start climbing back to my cruising altitude after I already started my descent. That is completely wiped away now, and for the most part, when ATC tells you to descend, they're pretty much right on the dot. I did have one instance where it wasn't the best timing and I had to kind of reroute myself to land properly, but besides that, it seems to be working better now. The PC-12 oxygen system is finally fixed. I can finally fly this plane without my freaking passengers and me dying from a lack of oxygen, even though I turned the oxygen system on. So that bug is now wiped out, no longer a problem. The PC-12 is more than flyable now. And also, it seems that enough fuel is being given to you without having to make adjustments. Now, you can make adjustments to how much fuel you have before you start the mission. You can't use it with your EFB, unfortunately, which I hope Azobo can add a feature like that in. That would really be appreciated. But the good thing is, right before you hit select a mission, you can just adjust the amount of fuel you have, and you're good to go. It only seems the Cessna Caravan is the one that has trouble with having enough fuel. Like, almost every cargo flight I did with it, I just never had enough, so I had to either do Control-Shift-F to add some fuel while I was in midair, or just add fuel before I even took off. But for the most part, for all the planes that I fly, besides the Cessna Caravan, I have just enough fuel to get to where I want to go. Now, when it comes to the airliner missions, these are the ones that I like to avoid the most, just because these are the ones that make me the most angry, because these have the most problems. From something as simple as passengers boarding, causing massive stuttering issues, random failures on takeoff on one of the 2 flights I did the other day, and ATC not descending me in time to get to my airport. Oh wait, they did tell me to descend, but only descend 1,000 feet, and they barely were saying anything past that point, and I just aborted the mission because I'm like, no, I'm done with this crap. It's not worth my sanity. Okay, time for a little rant, I guess. I don't really know if I should even call this part a rant. Just some annoyances that I'm having with career mode. These aren't really plaguing the experience for me, but I still want these to get addressed, but just like I said, they're not keeping me from wanting to play it. So most of my problems had to do with ATC. In fact, if not all of what I'm about to mention has to do with ATC. They still talk over you when you're acknowledging a transmission. So if I say something to them, they're going to immediately talk over me right there and overlap the dialogue. And it's extremely irritating.
Clear to Kilo Charlie Echo Yankee. As filed. Runway 24. Maintain 12,000. Departure frequency is 120 decimal.
And for some reason, ATC and your AI pilot voice have a very tough time pronouncing waypoints and tail numbers properly. They honestly sound like they have marbles in their mouth when they're talking.
Pilatus_M 908 1 contact Toronto Center on 132.575. Good day.
132.575. Pilatus Niner A1 65. Squawk 1714. Aircraft 57 vision recorded point 0.
Now, I don't know if there's exceptions to this, but to my knowledge, I know this is probably not allowed in real life. For some reason, a lot of the time, ATC tells you to cancel IFR flight plans when you're descending into IFR conditions.
Pilatus _ Niner A1. You can cancel IFR. Continue VFR to your destination. New York Center, Pilatus _ Niner A1 would like to cancel IFR.
Now, granted, I don't know if there's exceptions in real life, but I do know at the very least you need to have an instrument rating to fly into the clouds. But I don't know, maybe there's an exception to flying into IFR conditions without an IFR flight plan. Maybe someone can let me know. I do think I was going into uncontrolled airports though, so maybe that would be the exception to the rule, but I'm not positive. Now, this next bug, although it's rare, when it does happen, I just end the flight because it's never going to stop. So what'll happen is you'll have constant ATIS information read back to you, and there's literally no way to fix it unless you turn the volume all the way down on the comms, and it's from these two airports, Kilo Foxtrot Romeo Romeo and Kilo Oscar Kilo Victor. Honestly, I officially hate both of these airports just because of this bug now.
Kilo Oscar Kilo Victor automated weather observation 1900 Zulu. Wind 1064. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 24C. 2.15. Kilo Foxtrot Romeo Romeo automated weather observation.
And of course, visual bugs are still very much present in career mode, and you're gonna see a lot of them. I see them very frequently. Now, granted, I'm not gonna put too much heat on a Zobo for these right now because that's the last thing I really care about. I just want the damn sim to function properly, which it is. It's getting better, but you know, hopefully these get fixed in the future, just when they can get to a polishing stage. Before I get to my conclusion on Sim Update 3, I just want to go over 3 things really quickly. 2 of them are bugs, and one of them is just like something I want to see improvements with. So let's start with the King Air C90 generators. They're a bit buggy when you start the plane. Usually you're supposed to start one generator at a time after you start an engine, but whenever I start the second generator and then do the first generator after I turn on, you know, the second engine, it just starts bugging out like crazy, and I have no idea why. I just found that it's just better to just start both generators once both engines are on, so I hope that gets fixed. Also, the mouse button for some reason just becomes unresponsive for a few seconds, and this happens a little too frequently. It's not constant, but I am noticing it happening more and more as I play. Now, I want to just lastly talk about the EFB. I really want to see improvements to this. I like the functions that it has, but it just feels very sluggish, like a wet sponge.
Sluggish, like a wet sponge.
I just don't like the way that it interacts. It just feels kind of unresponsive and laggy, and I think it's working title that works with the EFB, so I would like to see a bit of more responsiveness and just things working a little bit faster with the EFB. Like I said, I love a lot of the functions it comes with. I use it very frequently, but it just needs to be optimized better. Okay, so now for my final thoughts. Is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 worth buying? I'm gonna be honest, guys, this is a very tough one for me to answer, but let me just go over a few things with you, okay? I'm gonna say I am getting very, very close to saying at the $70 price point, yeah, I think I am pretty close to recommending it, but I would say if you could possibly find it on sale for a couple of bucks, I would see if you can wait on that. But also, be sure to listen to other people's opinions on Flight Simulator 2024. Just because I'm having a good experience doesn't mean you are. It's kind of all over the place, but we are making progress. In fact, if you just look on the Steam reviews chart, the recent reviews as of recording this video are at 62%, which that's pretty darn good. So the sim is making progress. So I'd say just do a little bit of research, listen to other opinions, and see if it's going to be right for you to buy. But I could see myself saying go out and buy this game after Sim Update 4, since it seems like that update is going to be mostly performance focused. So if the sim can run even better than it is right now, which it already is running pretty good, then yeah, I may put my foot down and say, yeah, after Sim Update 4, go out and buy Flight Simulator. So anyways, that's all I really got. I know some people won't really like that verdict, but that's just kind of how I feel at the moment because, you know, everyone's experience is a little bit different right now. So anyways, I want to hear from all of you guys. If you're on PC, let me know what your specs are and how the update has been for you. And if you're on Xbox, also let me know how your experience has been with Sim Update 3. And guys, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. And until the next video, my fellow aviators, peace out and happy flying.